Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Jordan Sinclair. I'm a customer success manager here at Clio. I work with a number of our mid to large size firms. I have a quick agenda to just walk through. So we're going to run through some introductions with my lovely guests who are both firms that I work with. And then we have a few kind of things to go through related to firm management. We're going to hear some of the best practices that they employ, what's working at their firms. I just want to call out that there's going to be questions on the slides, and those questions are basically for you guys to kind of think about, just to get you thinking. And they're kind of thematically connected to some of the questions that we're going to be discussing with the two guests that I'm joined by. And so, yeah, we'll be going through a culture of improvement, what it looks like to kind of unlock Clio's full value, and how you can do that from a firm and leadership perspective. And then future-proofing your firm is kind of where we're going to lead off. So I've already introduced myself, but Anthony, if you could introduce yourself, and then Paula.
Hi, my name's Anthony No. I'm the COO of Woolsey Morcom out of Ponte Vedra, Florida. I've been with the firm 10 months, so I've only been in the law arena for 10 months. So I come from a background of healthcare and application development.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paula Chen. I'm with Hembry Bell Law, and I'm the IT specialist at the firm. And as Jordan likes to add, operations specialist as well. We do family law, and I've been with the team for 7 years.
Thank you both so much. So something just to think about as we move through is just for everyone in the audience is, what does leadership mean to you? This is something that I just want you to kind of think about. What does it look like at your firm? How are you guys, intentionally crafting your leadership culture at your firms? But to start off, I want to ask Paula. Hembry Bell has continually leaned into adopting new practices, and you're proactively exploring tools to support your work. Can you tell us a little bit about what's driven that mindset of always pushing to get more out of your firm, and how has it shaped your growth?
Yeah, so all of this mindset and drivenness definitely starts at the top. And so we're very blessed to have an amazing managing attorney and CEO who's in this room, Hannah Hembry Bell.
Give us a wave.
Yeah. And she really pushes that it is our obligation and our responsibility to be innovative and tech forward, because doing this allows us to be more efficient and more productive as a team. And as y'all know, in the legal world, time is money. So the better we can serve our clients by being efficient and adopting new practices when we need to, the more clients that we can help. And that, as a result, allows us to grow as a team. And then because we're also very tech forward, we're able to hire remote employees. So we're making sure we're hiring the best people for the job and the roles that we have. And then I think a big mindset and the reason why our firm cares so passionately about helping our clients is because a lot of our team members actually have personal ties to family law themselves. And so we really want to make an experience that is a lot better for our clients than it is for us. So when we're pushing these changes, our team understands there's a core reason why we're doing it.
Thank you so much, Paula. A few follow-ups. Can you lean in a little bit or tell us a little bit more about how leadership or firm cultures played a part in making change so integral to kind of how you guys operate your firm? I know from following Hannah on LinkedIn, you guys are often doing like team building and on-sites and bringing your team together. Can you speak to how that kind of helps, foster a culture of change at your firm?
Yeah. So our team is huge on collaboration and teamwork. There is not a single person on the team, and we're very blessed for this, where you go to them with a problem and people aren't wanting to help you. So that really allows us to introduce change and to, establish this kind of a culture, because everyone understands that we're doing it to help each other and also to help, everyone else. So we're not doing it for no reason. And then also, at the end of the day, all of the personal experiences and feelings allows us to really have that in our cultural DNA. We do a lot of fun events. So right now we're doing Follow Fun as well at our firm. And so it creates a good balance of, we like to have fun, but we're also very serious about the work that we do. And if we needed something, someone could step up and really help in those cases.
That's great. I have one last follow-up just on this. I know because this came up at lunch, we were kind of talking about hiring and recruiting, and I've had a number of conversations with other firms here at Clio. Can you tell us how, from your lens, like having that culture of innovation and tech forwardness has influenced your ability to find qualified people at Hembry Bell?
Yeah, so we're very tech forward again. So we really want to make sure we are hiring and like find people who also are interested in improving themselves in that tech forward. And we really want to cultivate an environment of togetherness and teamwork. So we have these like core principles that we know these are the people that work well with our team, and it allows us to then go out and say, hey, you're an expert in this field. How do you feel about teamwork and all those things? And then also, are you familiar with being a remote employee, so that we can hire in-person people that are in our amazing office areas, and then also team members who are outside of our state that can understand the processes and be able to pick up and make improvements as well.
Okay, I think that's a great segue into some questions for Anthony. So Anthony, I know you've only been with Woolsey Morecom a little while. You guys went through a pretty big upgrade at the start of the year when we started working together. Looking back, can you tell us a little bit about what the turning point was where the firm shifted from, skepticism to buy-in, and some of the practical steps that you guys implemented to kind of make that transition successful?
Sure, but I'll start with a little context. When I was brought in, they had already started the process of reevaluating our practice management systems. So everyone was anti-Clio. And so we went through the process of evaluating a variety of other systems, but it also gave us a chance to kind of really look at what the problem, why there was such a negative mindset with Clio. What we uncovered was it wasn't implemented internally as well as it should. So we started to take advantage of their resources for training, for new process adoptions and things like that. And then, once we compared all the apples to apples, Clio was easily the best one out there. Not to mention how hard it would be to transition from one system to another. So what we started with is defining all of the processes that we do. We've got 5 different practice areas. Each practice area goes through a different set of processes for how they manage their cases. So once we clearly identified how things should be done, we documented everything. We created Loom videos. We did everything that we needed to do to set us up for success regardless of the platform. But with the resources that they provided, we were easily able to convert everyone. Now everyone loves what we're doing with Clio. So from a practical steps, it was process identification, formalization of those processes, recording the processes, and making sure that the tools were set up to support all of the people.
I mean, thank you. And we've loved working with Anthony's team. They've really, really leaned in. I think one thing that I want to call out that I think has been a very clear differentiator between firms that I work with is you'll notice that there's firms that are willing to put in the time and investment and work with us. And, having someone like Anthony, if there's anyone here that is struggling to implement change and you don't have someone that is leading operations at your firm and you're just trying to squeeze it in as you go through your day as an attorney, it's going to be really, really hard. And we do have resources that can help you, but at the end of the day, you need somebody that is going to lean in and foster that change at your firms. And so with people like Anthony, I know he ended up working with this firm. He was a football coach, I believe, for some of the owner's kids, and they needed somebody. And they were working with Anthony, I believe, in a consulting capacity originally. And so that really, really helps with that kind of thing. One thing I think that is really daunting and really challenging, and I'd love us to kind of go into it a little bit further, Anthony, is, beyond just we went through our processes and we documented them and now everyone loves Clio. Can you fill in the gaps there a little bit further on for the people that were, Clio naysayers, or they were very resistant to leaning on Clio and they thought it had all these issues? I know there's some things we did together that I saw from my side, but I'd love to hear more about what that looked like at the firm. How did you get past some of that skepticism with those sort of people that were more resistant to the change?
Well, we focus on culture first. So regardless of the tools and the processes, we've got a very collaborative environment like you guys do. So we used that culture to bake in the transition. A lot of lunch and learns, a lot of one-on-one sessions with department heads. It was a lot of white glove service to make sure everyone felt heard and that they knew that their voice was used to transition whatever we were working on. So a lot of interaction with all of the stakeholders helped out a lot. And then again, as I said, we were very thorough in formalizing what we did. So documentation, videos, and things like that made it really easy for the naysayers to transition. And then they realized, oh, wow, we didn't know it did this, or we didn't know we could do this, or, oh, wow, I've got an idea. Can we do this? And so we were very proactive in getting that feedback and implementing that feedback. And at the end of the day, everyone ended up loving it.
That is amazing to hear. We're moving along pretty quickly here, but I did want to, I guess maybe one thing that we could circle back on is, you tell us a little bit about what your experience was like with I know I introduced you, but I never actually really saw what it looked like from your end, working with our professional services team on some of the training that you implemented through the firm. How did that kind of factor into your own internal training and those processes?
Yeah, it was top notch. Like I said, we did probably within the first 4 months, 5 lunch and learn sessions, and our success team was on the lunch and learns with us. So they provided the kind of the tactical steps of walking through upgrading our license. So we went from the essentials to the advanced. So they were very thorough in helping us understand how we could take advantage of all of the new features practically, not just from a high level, how it actually impacted us. So each of the practice areas, each had kind of an outline of here's how you do it, here's what it's going to do, here's the benefit. And then they gave us an open line of communication. So as problems arose, we had a direct line, and as soon as anything popped up, we had someone on the phone or in a Zoom call walking through whatever change was being implemented. So they were very thorough in helping us and supporting us through the whole transition.
Thank you so much. Shout out to our professional services too.
Very much
They're
so.
a great group of folks, and they do some amazing work. So I think, again, to that point, let's say you are someone in this room that doesn't have an operations person, and maybe you don't have the people to do the internal training, and you're like, I'm going to train Bob, and then 3 weeks later, Bob is going to stop doing everything that we taught him, or he's not going to be available for the training. Something that we provide as well is you can do on-site training. So, you can send someone down for 2-3 days, hang out with your team, train the majority of your team. And if you've got some attorneys that are in and out of trials, really busy, our folks are around and available for when they're available. So just one more thing to kind of touch on that. Moving forward, a question for both of you. So both of your firms have taken pretty different but successful paths. Woolsey Morecambe, you guys went through a pretty major sort of reset and retraining, and then Hembry Bell, you guys have been steadily adding more to your kind of Clio suite of products with Clio Payments earlier this year and a number of other things. But looking ahead, how do you see your approach to growth shaping the way that your firms evolve operationally? And if I could hear from Paula first.
Okay, yeah. So we have very clear goals and growth expectations at our firm. Hannah and the leadership team really think through, how do we want to grow? What does the year look like for us? And how do we want to get there? We're very much wanting to move up and to the right. And so how do we do this strategically and time it right? And I think the core of understanding how the problems that our clients face and how can we create better solutions allows us to kind of take this growth shaping approach. So we understand that change and implementing new technology is not an immediate thing. Teams need time to learn the products and the tools. And so we've really taken the time to vet out products, test it with our day-to-day workflows, make sure it actually works in our process. Because a lot of times when you see so much tech innovation and there's all these new cool things coming out, it's really easy to just jump onto the bandwagon really quickly and just say, yeah, we're going to make it, it's going to work because it sounds beautiful. And in reality, there might be certain things in your process that don't work well with it. So something that has been really helpful for our firm is working with Jordan and other vendors and account managers, where we can talk to them about, this is what we're currently doing. This is our current process. You have this amazing tool. how does it work in our process? And through that, Jordan's able to pull for us with Clio team members who are specialized in those products. And we're able to talk through, actually, this is kind of a problem for us. How can we work around it and come up with solutions so that we're not running into these problems when we're trying to implement it? We're able to actually get training. So we were able to implement Clio payments this year, Clio e-filing, all of those things. And it was after a lot of testing and making sure our team members felt comfortable with it. And the ones that tested out felt like it was going to work well for the rest of the team before we push it out.
Quick shout out to Hembry Bell on e-filing. They actually tested e-filing when we first released it. They're like, yeah, it's okay, but like we need XYZ. And shout out to our e-filing team because they turned around and a month later, I think it was like 3 or 4 things that they needed, implemented all of those things into the product, got rid of their existing e-filing service, and now they file all of their e-filings exclusively through Clio. Currently available in Texas and Georgia. We're working on California for any firms that do a lot of e-filing. I found that team has been phenomenal at implementing feedback here at Clio. So really exciting. We'd love to hear, Anthony, from your end. How do you kind of see things continuing to evolve, at Woolsey, and where's that kind of headed on your end?
Yeah. Well, we've been growing exponentially. We went from 35 employees 2 years ago to about 80 now. So while we've done kind of, as you said, a reset, we've been doing it very slow, very methodically, and we haven't really turned on everything yet. So while we're growing fast, we want to implement slow so that we're doing it in a very careful and coordinated way and not disrupting the client satisfaction that we already have. So we'll continue to evolve, continue that feedback loop. My approach is coming in from a software development perspective and using very iterative processes. So we're very hands-on with the support staff, with the attorneys, and we'll continue to do that. So as we get new functions, new features, all the AI stuff, you want to throw everything at once, but that's usually not the best approach. So while we're growing fast, we'll implement slow, make sure it's very coordinated, and just kind of stabilize that growth as we move forward.
Thank you both so much. Just a quick follow-up on that one. Is there anything in particular as it pertains to scaling? I know Woolsey, you guys have been growing pretty quick. Hembry Bell, same there. Are there any scaling specific things where you found that, you wish you had known this before you added those latest, 5 to 10 team members looking back, as it pertains to sort of your relationship with Clio and growth? And again, we'll start with Paul and then back to Anthony.
Yeah, so we learned a lot that for our team members, we really need to make sure we test the products before we apply it. When we were smaller, it was easy to just be like, oh, we're making this change and we're going to make it happen. Now we've learned, okay, we're going to have a few people test it out for a long period of time before we decide to make those changes. And that just allows us to have a better understanding of everything. And then how do we train the team? We also try to make sure we make changes slowly and not necessarily slowly, but very intentionally. So each department, instead of everything's changing for everyone all at once, how can we separate out so each department only needs to have one change that they're dealing with at a time? We can have multiple departments going through multiple different product updates and process changes, but how can we make sure that it's not overlapping so people aren't constantly feeling stressed and overwhelmed that they constantly have to learn something new, and that way they can focus on what their best, things are.
And Anthony, from you? Scaling.
Yeah. It kind of reiterating what she said, it's about being very methodical and thoughtful about how you do it. We've got 5 practice areas, so it's not real. A lot of it is also setting expectations. You can come in, you can't expect to change everything all at once. So it's finding the true problem areas that you can find progress in quickly, pushing through changes iteratively, and then, getting the feedback. Things won't work. Things are not going to go as you expect, and you're going to have upset attorneys, you're going to have upset clients. But it's, making sure that you're constantly maintaining that feedback loop so that when something arises, you're able to adjust to it. but you're also able to communicate to the firm, here's our 1 year, 2 year, 3 year strategy, and here's how we think everything is going to look down the road. So maintaining expectations, maintaining feedback, and then iteratively making those changes in the areas that it makes the most sense.
Thank you both. I have one final question for you both, and then we might have time for like maybe 1 or 2 Q&As real quick. So parting pieces of advice, and then if anyone has questions, we might have a little bit of time for that as well. We'll start with Paula. Any a final piece of advice for the room? If you had one takeaway.
Yeah. Every time I'm like, Anthony's going to go first, and then it's back to me. But yeah, advice. I think for us, with growth and everything, our biggest takeaway was we really need to test the products. I know I said this over and over again, but we have to test it to our workflow, because salespeople, that you're talking to about products are going to paint you this most beautiful picture. It's going to be the most perfect product. And then you go into it and there's kinks in it that may not affect other people, but will affect your processes. So our biggest takeaway, or my biggest advice, is really test your product with the people who are going to be using it in the day-to-day and make sure it works with their workflows.
Yep.
Over to you.
Visions and expectations. It's making sure everyone's aligned with the vision. Everyone thinks grow, grow, grow. Let's just make as much money as we can, which is great. But if you don't have a true vision of how the firm is going to operate, either from a cultural standpoint, from a revenue standpoint, all of those pieces, no matter what tool you put in, it can fail dramatically. It's also understanding your risk and your constraints. So adding new things always adds a level of risk. If you can identify those risks before you do it and have plans in place and understanding what constraints could, stop you from implementing the way you want to, it makes it a lot easier for everyone to understand that we've thought through this. We know what we're doing, have the confidence us that we're, making changes that are uncomfortable at first, but it all aligns with the ultimate vision.
Okay, I think we got a little bit of time for Q&A I do have stuff after the Q&A, but if anyone has a question, we do have some folks with mics that they can bring to you. So just quick raise of the hand and I can select someone if anyone's got some follow-ups. Yeah, sure, at the back there.
All right. Just a quick question for as you're scaling and you have all of these things you're implementing, and then you bring a new employee in, whether it be intake or paralegal or whatever area of the firm, what is your onboarding process? Do you do a lot of hands-on with like a mentor, or do you have online, onboarding processes, or how does that work?
Let's go Anthony first, and then Paula.
So part of the implementation is heavily documenting our SOPs, which then turns into our training material. So we are very hands-on with our onboarding, whether it's new attorneys, new support staff, or new operational staff. So we kind of have a playbook that outlines, based on their role, what tools, what platforms, what systems they'll be integrating or using. So we pride ourselves in being very thorough with our onboarding. So we've got a document library, we have a video library, and then for the first 2 weeks, we're kind of hand-holding to make sure that all of their questions are answered. We do kind of not necessarily a mentorship, but we have someone that helps them through that 2-week process to make sure all of their questions are answered, and that if they run into any sort of hiccups, that it's quickly identified. And a lot of times, bringing on new people helps us identify gaps that we didn't think about before, because they bring a new, fresh set of eyes to the equation. So it actually helps us identify things that we can update in our onboarding material.
Yeah, so this is something that we had to learn, especially as you're growing, how to better onboard team members and give them the time to learn your processes and your tools. So we do a kind of a mix of a bunch of different things. We have online training videos. We also have written documents and process manuals. And we do an onboarding binder for each of our team members and give them a lot of time to slowly learn our tools and everything. We do kind of, I want to say, almost have a mentor system, but it's not official. And we have, for certain roles like attorneys or paralegals, we have something we call like a passport, where there's certain things that they'll have to do and get sign off from their managing attorney or managing paralegal that might be like, hey, watch a deposition with us, or watch a, do your own deposition, and they'll check those things off and make sure that they feel comfortable in the role that they're in before, we kind of let them go from that onboarding process.
Any other questions? Got another one at the back there.
Hi. What was the threshold where you realized you'd gone from small to mid-size? Like, was there a revenue threshold or a headcount threshold? And like, what was that, come to Jesus moment when you're like, we need to be more deliberate about this?
This one will probably be for Paula, because I don't know that Anthony would have been around. He kind of joined when it was so.
Yeah, I think for me, when I realized that, hey, we have to make all these changes, was we had our COO join our team and really push and emphasize, hey, we need to structure things better and have these better processes. And then when we were thinking, how do we want to grow? That helped us, like knowing our goal allowed us to think through, I guess, how we needed to when it was time. So we started getting into products or processes where it wasn't working because we were too big for it. And so I think all of it kind of ties together, like your revenue and your people. But if your people can't do the processes and there's not a smooth way it works, then you're not going to be able to grow because you're going to be stuck in that cycle. So I definitely think that's kind of where.
Can you speak to about how many folks you were when you hit that point?
I'm not sure. I want to say because we grew, I feel like, pretty rapidly, where we were about 5 people on our team. And then in a year or in a few years, we're up to like 20 something people, 30 something people. And so that was a really big jump for us. We're probably getting closer to like 10, 15, 7 people when we were like, okay, we have to really make sure we streamline these processes.
I can add a little bit. Even though the growth from small to mid was pre-me, listening to the stories from our CEO, it was when the number of people exceeds your ability to manage them. So on the smaller firms, you don't have an HR person, you don't have an ops person, you don't have an AP person, and you've got support staff, commingling across all those avenues. When your headcount gets to a point where it's not feasible to have a paralegal / receptionist manage your onboarding, it's pretty evident that you need, that focused attention on those operational aspects. So I think their threshold was around 30 when they realized we can't do this without operational support. And then that's when they invested in myself. We've brought in HR people. We've brought in remote staff to help on a lot of the operational components. So I would say the threshold is about 25 to 30 headcount.
Okay, I have a final note just for the folks in this room. Our mid to large size track, our firm track is going to continue. So coming up after this at 1:45, we have ideas to impact the future of legal tech for mid to large firms. And then from 3 to 3:30, we have Getting It Done in Clio playbook for execution at mid to large firms. Both going to be great sessions. Lastly, a huge thank you to Anthony and Paula for volunteering their time and sharing their insights. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with both your firms. We love working with the firms here at Clio. I am just like nerding out all of ClioCon. I love talking to everybody here, hearing about what you're working on, your challenges. If you see me and you have a question for me or any of these folks, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer your questions. And I hope you have a good rest of your conference here at Clio.
Huge shout out to Clio.
We try.